Cross, and you're watching Glorious. And I am so excited today because I have someone with me who is so very special. I've known her for several years, and it's just a blessing that she is a part of our church family. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let you in on the surprise. Hello, Tanika. How are you?
Hello, Pastor Ann. I'm great. How are you?
Great, great. I am so happy to have you on the show with me today.
I'm happy to be here.
Welcome.
Yes.
Tanika, for several months I've been doing this show, and several ladies within our church, I've already talked with, because we've got such an awesome church family, and we have so many women who have just huge testimonies, of which you're one. And for those of you maybe who are tuning in for the first time, this is a show that God gave me several years ago, and the show is entitled Glorious. I actually did not start it until April of '09, so it's very special because God gave me a scripture, and that was Jeremiah 1:10. And that scripture is that He has set me over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out, to pull down, to destroy, and to overthrow, to build and to plant. Because all of us have had some things going on in our lives that were negative. All of us have been probably down the wrong path, and through God's grace and mercy, He has brought us back full circle. And that's why I wanted to talk with you, because I know that you have a testimony as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're from originally from Murfreesboro,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay. And your mom, who has also been on the show, that's Carol Pulliam, and she's another sweetheart, a special person at our church. She had an awesome testimony.
Yes, awesome.
And we just thank God for her and how she is just excelling and doing the things that God has called her to do. Now, your testimony is one that started, about how old were you when you were, I would just say you started on your rowdy path?
Wow. Really and truly on my rowdy path, I would have to say about 16. 16?
So that's 16. Not bad. Not bad.
16 years old.
So in your rowdiness, what actually happened on that path, on that rebellious path?
At the age of 16, I was more into hanging out all the time and sneaking a drink, because I looked older, so I could, go to a certain liquor store and get liquor. Just about everyone in my set could actually go, and do that. So we would do that on ball game night and put it in a Coke and, and drink it and smoke marijuana. Yeah, that was our thing. That was every Friday at the ball game. It didn't happen Monday through Thursday. But you can better believe on Fridays and Saturdays.
That's what you were doing.
That was the thing. Yes. Yes.
Now, people might say, "Little marijuana, that's no biggie." I did marijuana. Yeah, it's a biggie. We of course minimized it back then because everybody else was doing it, so to speak, or at least we thought so. But where else did that take you in that path or on that path?
For years, when I got married, I got married at the age of 20 and had my daughter. And during that time period, I was drug-free, alcohol-free, all of that. And then before I had my second child, I didn't really do too much. I would have an occasional drink. But it was after I had my son and I separated from my first husband. And that's when it seemed like the bottom just kind of fell out of everything, And so I had a daughter who was 8 and a son who was 6 weeks when I left. And we were living in Madison. I moved to Murfreesboro.
Okay.
And had a daughter that was a daddy's girl. And she hated mommy. Mommy left daddy. Daddy's gonna come get us. Daddy's gonna rescue us. Daddy's gonna, you know, I couldn't reach her. I mean, she really, really just distanced herself. I couldn't reach her. And my son was a baby, so therefore, you know, he didn't have any knowledge really of what was going on. But with her, she was just completely heartbroken. And as she pulled away from me, I withdrew from everything and everyone around me. I knew the Lord, all of that, but it just, I did not have a connection. I knew God, but I didn't know God. You know? And so I started with the drinking and the marijuana again. And shortly after that, it went over into crack. Yes.
So you went from marijuana to crack.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Did you have a big addiction with crack?
It was big enough. I mean, you know, any addiction at all to me is, you know, is a big addiction. You know,
because I talked to some people who say, you know, they had like $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a day crack addiction.
No, it never got that big.
Okay.
Well, it never got that big. It stayed in the hundreds. And it stayed in the hundreds.
Which is still money out the window.
Yes, there was still money out the window. But
how long did that happen?
It for about a year and a half, close to 2 years. Yes. It started out, it wasn't daily, just kind of subtly, you know, and then I actually put a friend on the spot because she was already, you know, using. And I went to her, I was upset, really upset. You know, I had, you know, started dating this guy and all kinds of just crazy stuff, you know. And it wasn't working out, but it wasn't supposed to work out. I was still married, you know, it wasn't supposed to work out. And so
you were just separated from your first husband?
Yes, just separated at the time. And so I went to her and I told her that I wanted to try it. And she was like, no, what are you doing? You know, no. And I said, well, if you don't take me to go get it, I'm going to go myself. You know, and she knew I had no knowledge as to what I was doing, and she was like, okay.
So what made you want to experiment with crack? Was it because other people were, or?
Somewhat, yes. It was because other people were, and I knew that it was a means of escape. It was, you know, with marijuana, you're silly, you're hungry, you know, you know. But with crack, I didn't know how it would be. But I just did not want to think about the hurt.
From your marriage? Yes,
from my marriage, from my, you know, my daughter being hurt. I couldn't, it was like I just couldn't reach her. You know, I couldn't. And I had never, ever felt so distant from my child, from the day that I had her.
I mean,
you know.
She didn't talk to you?
No, not much. No. And I found her diary. And when I read her diary, I was like, man, she really hates me.
Really? Because she thought that you had taken her away from her
daddy. Yes, you know.